minutes, 15. I mean, I don't know. That feels comfortable. There is Latin America's attacker ban showing itself again. It's Thatcher, gone. And a common, I suppose, again, a common ban or sensible ban on a map like Clubhouse alongside the likes of Maverick, not surprising. But, you know, we would usually see, and we have seen in other regions from other teams, it be Maverick instead of Thatcher. So just a little bit of a change there.
I'm astonished at how long Ninjas in Pyjamas are taking on the very first ban, which will come out from ONE because they are defending, and they take out Thatcher. Thatcher's the most banned attack operator, and that will continue. Latin America really does not like the British
SAS?
I guess yeah, I was gonna say a swear. I was gonna make his like laser sights thing.
Oh yeah, the heckin' laser sights?
I mean, sort of.
Yeah, like that. So a little bit,
sort of,
kind of along those
sort
lines.
of heckin'.
So Echo and Mira. There's Mira.
Well, there's one.
So next is Echo.
I mean, it's Team ONE. They could ban Valkyrie.
Do something crazy, yeah.
Against Psycho if they really wanted to, and it could be a targeted ban coming out. But no, it's gonna be Echo.
That would have been a really awesome prediction.
Make me look foolish.
Well, no, I mean, like I said, it would have been an awesome prediction, and Echo's really like no one's surprised by Echo. So,
I mean, I think it's Julio that's played both Mira and Echo in a pinch before for his team.
Yeah,
Usually
Julio.
they used to have WOG on Smoke, but I don't think Nip really runs Smoke as reliably anymore.
We can say with like I think a kind of outright that Julio is one of the strongest flex players on Nip. Like he's what he was really good at is kind of shifting onto any role that his team needs.
Yeah, he can play whatever you really want him to do. He's very clutch and a very reliable player, no doubt about that. And yeah, he can play support. He can frag well, too. I think there are teams that certainly have, you know, horrific flashbacks to when he used to play the Blitz, and I think for a long period of time
it's a while ago.
Could have possibly even been the best Blitz, not just in the world, or not just in Latin America, but in the world as well. But Blitz has fallen very quickly out of favor in actually every single region. It's been Montaigne who's picked up the pace and picked up the slack when it comes to shield operators there. Of course, Fuse has a 0% pick rate, I think, across all regions right now, but so does Ella. Ella's a 0% pick rate in Latin America, which I think is fascinating. Latin America doesn't really like to contest the stairs as aggressively as other regions do. I mean, we still see it, the bank stairs, when you think about it. Those blue server stairs on bank.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you see a lot of Ella with that shotgun, because it is a very powerful gun.
Yeah, she did also get that buff to her SMG recently, so the recoil is much more manageable now. So some people have been bringing an Ella for specific types of play, but you sacrifice a lot on your defense when you do decide to bring someone like an Ella. So some other teams deciding to forego that, instead just sticking to what they know will work. Ninjas in Pyjamas gonna be clearing out the top floor, it looks like here. Psycho droning for himself. That's not great. We were actually talking about this before the match began, how a lot of teams will just kind of assume that there aren't roamers on Basement Clubhouse and it'll cost them.
It's a casual conversation you and I were having.
Yeah, and Ninjas in Pyjamas obviously not doing that. They are being thorough here, though the way that they're doing that, or the way that they're clearing out the top floor, is a little bit slower than you would hope for if you're a Nip fan. In that, again, it's a kind of an inefficient droning for oneself type thing, and Team ONE are probing. They are looking for opportunities to put the hurt on to Ninjas in Pyjamas, but they haven't found any just yet. And they are, while probing, yes, being very cautious when doing so.
Yeah. The Team ONE's lineup that you see here is going to be able to do some pretty respectable coverage. I am a little surprised that it's a Thatcher ban alongside a Capitao ban and not a single hard breacher has been removed from action. I think Nip reads into that correctly by running all three of them. But then keep in mind what we said earlier, that doesn't leave an awful lot of flexibility, right? You've got your two soft destructors in the hands of both the Zofia as well as the Sledge. Zofia will likely be running a Claymore instead of the breaching charges, and that is correct.
Oh, that could have been. I think the wall is unreinforced, but he doesn't know because he can't see because it's on the other side of the wall. Would have been some excellent game sense.
No, but Musi was able to call that one out, and Psycho used one grenade, and then the second one will go out. But as you can tell from the health of Team ONE, not a scratch on them. If Psycho drops, it'll be to his peril as Rayduck guns down Pino for our very first kills. The hatches have been opened up. Hibana is not going to be as integral for the final minute here of this round, but still you've been able to give your team a little bit of space to work with.
So Julio, not being a Thatcher, is going to have to struggle with this church wall, but of course, if he can get those batteries, then he will do his team a great service. Kamikaze will go in through the exothermic, but he's gone. Thanks to Skadinia, who's going on aggressive push onto Moto, and will get 2 on that very push. So Ninjas in Pyjamas now find themselves at a very strong deficit.
Really unlucky timing there for Kamikaze as he just come out of the ADS, which puts Musi and Psycho in the danger zone. Nobody from Team 1 has fallen just yet, and Psycho's position given away by one of the goo mines. Musi is tossing and turning inside of blue. He'll have to try to pick which side of the doorway he wants to go through. Multiple bodies will look at him. He hasn't been able to tag any of them, as Skadinia still injured from that earlier ensuing fight, but Musi might get swung on by the Legion. Psycho takes him down. Down goes Rise, but there's very minimal entry here. Psycho falls right next to Musi, just out of arm reach, trying to take out the smoke. Falls, but can't do it. He'll light up both the Valkyrie as well as the smoke, but not able to do a full amount of damage. Doing 50% to 2 people, not quite as effective as doing 100% to 1, and Team 1 will take the very first round.
So the thing that I noticed there from Team 1 is that they were really, really good at their fallback strategy. So it came down to them trying to roam and delay for as long as possible, and this is a strategy that we see employed pretty much everywhere in Pro League. It's a very common type of defense where you will put your roamers up, but you'll always leave them avenues to retreat when it's necessary. Team 1 played that very cautious. The reason it ended up working out for them was actually because Ninjas of Pyjamas were very inefficient on their clear. Again, it took them, and by them I mean Nip, way too much time to take care of the roamers on the top floor, despite the fact that the roamers on the top floor fell back as soon as they were droned. There was no, hey, we're going to fight you upstairs, or we're going to, bait you with some shots and try to distract you. It was just Team 1, okay, they got droned out, they shoot the drone, and they go back downstairs. So, in that sense, Ninjas of Pyjamas hunted phantoms upstairs, wasted a lot of time. They did it by themselves, which cost them even more time than when they were going for the site take. Team 1, while, again, probing the attack throughout that site take, did not leave themselves open to any potential picks in the way of Nip. So that was a well-orchestrated defense from Team 1, and Nip were a little bit inefficient on their clear, which forced them into a corner because of so little time.
I mean, let's also be honest. Skadinia read that perfectly. He knew the wall was being mavericked from below, so what did the Bandit do? He swung out to try and maybe catch Julio. I don't think he expected there to be somebody playing inside of the Moto area, which is where we saw Kamikaze, but he was prepared for it nonetheless. Ended up capitalizing off of that and then got Julio in the immediate follow-up as Julio came on in, likely after the call from Kamikaze. And because of this, not only does Skadinia gun down 2 of the hard breachers, as you'd already lost Pino from Ninjas in Pyjamas, but you've also taken out the only 2 members of NIP who are on church side. That meant that the remaining 5 members of Team 1 outside, or the 4 members outside of Skadinia, could just rotate over and watch blue. And I mean, you've got 2 entries there, right? You've got the doorway inside of blue, or you've got the cross into church. Yeah,
so it was a dual problem. It was well played by Team 1 to, put the pressure on the hard breachers, but also, NIP didn't have enough time to adjust at the end there. They had, I think, 40 seconds when they were on that church wall, and that's really not a lot of time for a Maverick to deal with your Bandit batteries, then to try and exothermic it. And so, yeah, NIP were feeling rushed. That's why the timing was so bad for Kamikaze. That's why he wasn't able to win the fight against Skadinia, because he was feeling rushed. And this denial strategy that Team 1 are bringing out with the batteries and into the Electro Claws is working out great, because there's no Thatcher, and that's the obvious, plan for Team 1. And it's actually a really common one that we've seen on Clubhouse. Ban the Thatcher, and then bring the Kaid, and then you can deny pretty much everything. And you can see this wall being opened up here by Julio, but he doesn't actually know where the Electroclaw is exactly, so he's just going to try and go for the Maverick trick.
Yeah, there it is. Soft destruction, open it up. You got both a Buck and a Zofia who will have no problem being able to take out that soft wall. And essentially, for those of you that might not be aware, the Maverick trick is that you cut a line at the top and then the bottom, and it throws off the reinforcement. It falls away and leaves you a soft wall on the other side. So by doing so, with a minute and 50 seconds in, you finally have the wall open, but still nobody from NIP has been able to take up any further ground.
That's the big thing, is that just by banning one operator and bringing another, Team 1 have wasted a lot of time, but Julio's in sight, and he's going to take down Skadinia. He's looking for more, but he's going to be cautious here, holding the angle by Bathroom. There is one inside a Bathroom, but he's not able to find him initially, and it's going to be Rise with a refrag, and another for him, 2-piece, and Team 1 clean up shop. It's just Pino suddenly on the balcony.
Just standing out there, guys?
What happened?
Where'd you go? And then Rainbow6 just pops out from the old deployable shield. The new deployable shields are, of course, on the test server. You wouldn't have needed Rainbow6 to actually pop up with the new deployable shields that have the slats through them. Try them out if you have on PC, by the way. Go to the TS. It's a free download. Anywho, Team One will take their second round in a row. And that's the thing that happens with Jim, though, right? The moment you open up that jacuzzi wall, if you don't have somebody possibly holding the entry from logistics office, and there's no mirror window on bathroom, you could just charge right into Jim, and teams do this all the time. Run into Jim, maybe put somebody inside a construction. You've got a great cross angle being held. You can't peek out of the bathroom as a defender. You're pinned down. It's a free plant, and that's why we tend to see a lot of teams will be able to pull a plant off when there's still 5, 6, 7 bodies left on the board on both sides.
There's a couple other factors that were really relevant there, and again, it's T1, I think, reading into how NiP play, and NiP tried to change gears. And that's why Julio decided to rush into site there. They were trying to go for a more aggressive, take control, push the time, try and be assertive, be dominant. That was NiP's game plan in that round after they got the wall open, and that's sensible. I agree with that strategy because the slow, methodical take that they were going for on the basement was not working out. Team One were too prepared to handle that. But you know what else? Team One were prepared to handle a more aggressive push, too. You saw there in that just absolute mess of an engagement that Team One came out on top because they were not holding every single angle, but they were there for the refrags, and they held what they needed to hold well. And it was, the denial strategy that's working out for Team One because they're wasting so much time for NiP that NiP are feeling pressured to go for more aggressive plays. And if they don't go for more aggressive plays, then they're running out of time because they don't have enough denial because Thatcher is banned. So it's a well set up defense from Team One. And I honestly, the way that this is playing out right now, I'm going to say I'm struggling to see too many rounds being shaved away on the attacking side in favor of NiP. However, this is, of course, going to be you can't win in the first half. So when NiP do get to defense, things could change in their favor. It's entirely possible. But Team One have set themselves up, again, very well to win all of their defensive rounds. As long as they don't make any major mistakes, then they should be able to do that. It's well in their hands.
I mean, the thing is when we started this map, I said that it would be a 4-2 scoreline for most defensive teams if everything goes according to plan. And what's the site that you usually lose on Clubhouse? It's Gym, for the most part.
Yeah. Some people really struggle with Cash. But
some people can struggle with Cash, absolutely, but it's usually Gym Master that we see teams lose on. You go to Church or Cash first, then you lose Gym 3rd and 6th. There you go. You emerge with a 4-2. Small changes can make the big difference here. The hurdle that Team One had, which was that Gym Master hold, they've already been able to clear it quite successfully. Now, the issue that some teams struggle with when it comes to Cash is very similar to what we saw NiP do out of Gym, which is that once you get something open, you just rush right in. And you can do that. You can have somebody being, in a position in Adam's spot or that blue stairs on the first floor.
Oh.
Have somebody open up the wall, and then somebody charges up red, and you're in an awful lot of trouble as the defenders. For the time being, Team One has bodies spread out all over the map. You can hear C4 get tossed up, and it just narrowly misses. It's down Musi. Or at least appears that it might have downed Musi, seeing if he'll be able to withstand, as that's a unique ability to Zofia. But that only gives you 5 HP, whereas getting picked up by Hibana will give you 20, and that's exactly what will happen. Pino gets him back from the dead.
Well, Ninjas of Pyjamas have managed to open up all that they want, but they haven't actually gotten anything away from Team One. And this is the particular thing that I find Team One are excelling at through these rounds, not giving away picks. None at all through over these last 3. They're forcing the engagements to come in team fights on the actual site take. And NiP are always up against a wall when it comes to time. That is, there you go, the first one for Ninjas of Pyjamas. And Psycho's looking for another. If it's going to be anyone, it'll be him, but Falls with the pre-fire will take down Psycho. And Lukid persists downstairs. All of the control currently very much in Team One's favor. As well as having 2 lit opponents, they're just looking strong on the default angles. It's going to be Pino, once again, the last one for NiP, but he will be dispatched by T1. Falls having a real banger of a round there inside a garage.
Do work with both the Evil Eye Cam as well as the gun himself. And while Maestro's Evil Eye Cams might not be as potent as they used to be, a large part of that is the vulnerability that they have to both Twitch and Thatcher. One of those 2 operators being banned, and a Twitch hasn't been brought at all, so of course you don't really have the same counter to a Maestro that you usually would have, barring the soft destruction. Mm-hmm. But, Maestro's gun is still, I believe they call it bananas. So
very good.
Very strong gun. And the way that you're going to position a Maverick is inside a garage 9 times out of 10, usually with an ADS situated and maybe a camera to watch just in case you get pushed. If teams, bother to reinforce the bottom part of Garage, then it's usually easier to defend. But there's lots of hard destruction from Nip, so they would have been able to get that open quite easily. The thing that I've been most impressed with out of Team 1 so far is how they've been able to read and anticipate where Nip is coming from. Now, part of that is just the setup that Team 1 has. They've been trying to corral Nip into areas and parts of the map like most defenders do, but Team 1 have been more successful in that. And I wonder how much of that is Nip just simply not reacting to the defense. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't really gotten to see a lot of what Nip has done procedurally, step by step. But a lot of what Nip is doing is pretty formulaic when it comes to the way that you attack these sites. And Team 1 has just prepared themselves for it and won an awful lot of gunfights in the process.
Again, I'm sticking with my assessment that this is just small inefficiencies on the side of Ninjas and Pyjamas. In that, like, for example, when you're clearing out the top floor on a basement defense, Psycho's droning for himself. I mean, there should be more, pre-placed drones in the prep phase, if possible. It's not always possible, if possible. And apart from that, there should be someone always droning for that roam clear. Because no matter how much it doesn't, like, okay, it may seem like it's less efficient for someone to drone for someone else because that someone who's droning is standing still. It's way more efficient because when one person's droning for another person, you can clear that room instantly upon the person droning calling it clear. Instead of, the droner has to get off his drone and go clear it. Skadinia, though, going to continue to roam upstairs, so it's not clear. And there was actually someone droning, I believe, there for Psycho just now. But the drone gone. He is now going to kind of languish on the balcony out of his, I guess, not in a position where he can drone himself, and time's ticking away. Again, this is Team 1 very efficiently denying Ninjas and Pyjamas access to the building. This is a very different strategy, though, actually, from Team 1, and it's leaving gaps in their defense. As you can see, blue control is already well in hand for Ninjas and Pyjamas, and they're droning all the way into Arsenal. This is a huge mistake from Team 1.
They haven't even droned in. They're just in right now. Musy's blown open one of the walls, and nobody's heard it. There's nobody around B at all. There goes Rayduck, as he'll fall to Kamikaze, and Nip can possibly pull off a plant if Kamikaze's able to get on in. He will. Nip has complete and total site control, and Team 1 have been read like an open book. And they've lost complete control of every part of this defense. Julio picks up 2 kills as he charges on down the main stairs. Skadinia is isolated over in blue. A beautiful shot on Nepino. He'll have to try to find a second, but he can't work around the boxes to Kamikaze, which will leave falls in a 1v4. He'll light up a corpse for good measure, but it's Psycho who gets the very final kill, and Nip, not just being formulaic in this case, but for the first time, Nip seems to understand the way that Team 1 played, and it was some glaring issues from Team 1 that allowed Nip to just walk right into the site and get a plant down completely for free.
So remember earlier when I said that Team 1 should be able to take every single round as long as they don't make any major mistakes? Well, hindsight is, of course, 2020, but Team 1 changed the way that they defended that round as compared to their previous rounds. In previous rounds, notably the first round when they defended basement for the first time, Team 1 fell off of the roam the moment they were droned out. There was no fighting people upstairs. There was no let's attempt to delay them further. And what this did was, well, I mean, it allowed Team 1 to hold everything. Big note there. They held on to blue because their roamers fell back to blue. And also, it wasted Ninjas and Pyjamas time. Because Nip, despite, forcing the roamers back upon just droning them, they didn't know that. The drones would be shot, so they'd have to drone again. They'd spend an extra 20-30 seconds doing that. They'd clear out the top floor. They'd establish there's no one there. But Team 1 were just, again, they were using phantoms as their roamers. They were just trying to delay Nip. This time, Team 1 tried to push it a little bit further. They tried to delay a little bit extra by actually fighting their opponent upstairs. And that just left giant gaping holes in the defense downstairs. Now, here's one thing to note. We are going to be going to a bar defense, which we haven't seen since the second play day of Latin America this season. As you noted earlier, I believe it was Red Devils who ended up going here, maybe, but whoever it was a while ago. And it's going to be an ACOG strategy here for Team 1. They're just trying to fight people outside.
They're just playing with their food at this point. This is almost comical, but we will see all 4 sites get utilized by Team 1, and down goes Psycho. You got 1 and 2 sets of frag grenades off the board. You got a lot of soft destruction off the board, but I mean, it's a good thing you doubled up. Pino obviously not enjoying what the Hibana brings to the table, so you go with a Buck instead, and I think the Buck was the smart idea. You don't need more than a Thermite and a Maverick if you're attacking Gym Master, which is, I'm assuming, where Nip thought they were going to be attacking onto. given the way that the rotation worked. Cash was still locked, and, well, the only other option was bar and stock, and here we are. And the Zofia of Muzi might not have spotted Skadinia playing up on the rafters, watching the doorway. This could be yet another pick for Team 1. But back onto drone work, and it actually has spotted him. Skadinia understands this, and he might just go swinging for the fences here. Zofia has the ability to shut him down if she wants.
He's going to use his second drone to drone for himself again. Could easily be picked off. It's been called out. There's a lot of information that could potentially be wasted there on the Zofia. Downstairs, it's going to be Luka to support his teammate on the rafters, and this is just Team 1, retaining full control everywhere on this map.
It's Mr. 21 right there, Mr. 21 and 5. Another drone gets fed into the machine that is Skadinia, but he's in a really bad spot as, there you go, that CCTV wall's been opened up. Luka wasn't expecting that. He was covering below. He now might be wandering into the sights of the Zofia if he decides to attack Garage, but he just works into the blue area and sits atop the stairs.
I mean, overall, so far, Team 1 have done a great job of delaying Ninjas and Pyjamas, who were adamant that they needed to take control of Garage. But what for, really? I mean, Garage control is going to allow you to open up the lounge wall, and if you open the lounge wall, you can execute onto stock with the beautiful crossfire, but you've lost so much manpower and time at this point.
Not even that. You've lost both of your soft destruction. I mean, if Muzi doesn't have breaching charges, right? He doesn't have any breaching charges, so what is he going to use? Well, he's got the lifeline if he really needs it, but where is he going to utilize it? That's 2 shots to open up soft destruction. The buck and the sledge being off the board is way more important here. Meanwhile, Luka had fallen as he was felled above and found out quite quickly. Puts Rise in a position to duel with Kamikaze. Kamikaze doesn't take any damage. Nip doesn't really seem to understand where to go from here. They have possession of Lounge with 30 seconds to go. Very close to pushing on into stock. Down goes Falls, and it's Nip with an advantage yet again. Is he in on Billiards? Trying to find somebody if there's a pre-fire opportunity available for him. There's not. Hugging the bar is Rise, waiting for the Zofia to push on out. They should be able to catch the Thermite. No, he looks away at the wrong time. Rise and Rayduck get one, and it's a 1v1, but Rise able to take out the remaining HP of Kamikaze with very minimal effort, playing behind the bar in a overall very confusing round, in which things didn't really seem to be happening in the rhythm that you expected them to. That time and the gamble to take out the soft destruction from Team 1 ultimately won them that round, even though Nip were almost able to recover at the end.
Okay, so it did seem like Nip haven't practiced attacking bar because, as I stated, there was a very, very simple attack strategy onto bar, and it seemed like what Nip were setting up to execute. That attack strategy is just take control of Garage, take control of Cash, establish a flank watcher by Rafters and Cash and server and all that, and make sure you're not going to get flanked from there. Then you open up the lounge wall, and then you get a crossfire onto stock, and you plant the diffuser. I assumed that was the plan there for Nip because they put so much effort and time and manpower and lives into taking control of Garage. But then after they got control of Garage, they rotated to Pool. And I was just, that whole time I was like, okay, why? And to their credit, Nip did manage to make that rotate turn into picks. They did get a lot of picks, but I think it was more just because Team 1 were surprised that the rotate was coming out. They were like, why are you doing this? And it ended up, costing Nip the round because they didn't have any real structure to their attack in the second half of that round. So a truly confusing one there from Nip. I think it's just they really haven't practiced attacking that site, which is fair, I suppose, and that nobody plays it really, but Team 1 just did. So I guess that changes things. And they were successful. They will go to the, it looks like, basement for final defense. See if they can get a 5-1 out of this. But Ninjas and Pyjamas, their only successful attack was on basement, so this could very easily be the forecasted 4-2.
Yeah, I think this is a must-win for Nip if they want to be able to keep it close, because it's very unlikely. It's possible, but it's very unlikely that Team 1 would only be able to walk away with 1 round on attack. At least with the way that we've seen Team 1 play in the past. Who really knows here? But Psycho's going to try to double up on the defense. He'll find Rayduct and get out of there as quickly as he can. Soft destruction to try to move into stock, but it's really just to tease his opponents and confuse them. He's going to continue to do home wrecker as best as he can.
Again, I have to critique Team 1 actually trying to contest the roam clear. The fights that they are getting into, whether they're costing Team 1 in control of blue, like it did on the 1 round Ninjas and Pyjamas managed to win, or costing them in just pure lives, like it did just now, they aren't working out. Team 1, their best defense in the basement was the first round, and it was because they just didn't take fights until it was necessary.
This is another ballsy effort from Skadinia, who's going to take a fight into the hatch over Moto that's just been opened up. And once again, Ninjas in Pyjamas have forfeited that third hard breacher. Pino back on the buck in place of the Hibana, which does make it a little bit more difficult when you're attacking Church down below, because you're going to use what? Maybe the Maverick charge on one of the hatches. You're going to use an exothermic charge on one of the hatches, but there's 3 hatches that you want to be able to open up, and then you've also got the church wall too. So Nip might be setting themselves up to not worry too much about the church wall, depending on the way that Julio pushes on in. Of course, you got the soft destruction inside of the kitchen that's going to be in the hands of Pino, and he's made his home exactly where you need to be.
There's a big difference between the round that Team 1 managed to win on the basement defense and this one. You've got the Maverick doing work, but Skidinho with an aggressive push down the main hallway, and he'll get 2. So that's what we saw the first defensive round down here. Kamikaze, though, will start to fight back, and Skidinho with his 3rd in the round. He's going to have to get more, but he'll be shut down, so it's all on Falls now in a 1 versus 2. Knows an opponent is inside of blue, but the other, Kamikaze, inside of Church itself, could potentially go for a plant, and the rotate in blue is out, so full control for Falls here. Plant going on behind the minibar, and it will be successful, but a lot of damage will be inflicted thanks to those gas canisters. Post plant now. Impact's going out towards the bar. More damage done, but not enough to get Kamikaze on the floor.
Luckily, I think that smoke actually missed.
It did. Kamikaze with the last kill there, and a beautiful plant behind the bar. Falls will go down. So Ninjas in Pyjamas, a 4-2 in the first half. And a well-executed attack downstairs.
It was a better defense, I would say, than the last opportunity that we saw out of Team 1, where they just vacated the site and allowed Nip to run right in without having to fight any single member. There was minimal coverage from Team 1. That time, though, there was much better coverage, but they forfeited it very quickly when Skidinho fell, because Nip was just simply able to win the gunfights. I don't know how much of that fell into the drone work. I don't know how much of that was just simply face-checking and being able to catch somebody off guard. But Skidinho picked up his 3rd kill and was immediately refragged, and I think there was a member of Team 1 that tried to help him out and wasn't able to do all that much. Smoke is a strong operator, but after those SMG-11 changes, I don't find that he clutches quite as much as he used to. I mean, it's definitely doable with the shotgun, but in the position that we saw Falls, it was very unwinnable, especially with no rotate into blue either. He was essentially boxed out at that point, and he missed his smoke.
Hey man, I'm still an advocate of the FMG9. I've actually very recently become one. It's been
Stop.
So much better than it used to be. I'm telling you, I don't know what they did to it.
Stop.
But it's so good.
They gave it the hollow.
Maybe that's it. I don't think so though. It's just that's just.
You're not a member of the Red Dot Gang.
No, I don't use Red Dot. No.
People are very passionate about the Red Dot Gang.
Okay.
But
all right.
Anywho, Nip has had some great success on Church, so it stands to reason that they go here first. Additionally, it ends up being one of the most comfortable sites for defenders.
Yes.
Not too much surprising. Team 1's composition is almost exactly the same as the one that Ninjas in Pyjamas ran an awful lot of times. All 3 hard breachers with a Zofia and a buck. Except the buck is showing up basically in place of the sledge at this point.
Speaking of, Ninjas in Pyjamas running a very similar composition as well. Lots of denial here on the Nip roster. Now, that last round, again, Team 1 did have a few holes in their defense, but I think, again, it was the fighting the players upstairs, losing their Valkyrie early on, that gave them an advantage to Nip, which gave, not only confidence, but the ability for Nip to just force team fights in their favor by, getting into those kind of slugfest engagements that we've seen be so popular in this match so far. That's what probably ended up costing Team 1 overall, but there was also the lack of control over by Church Wall. Skidinho corrected that in the end, but it was a little bit late. Anyway, Ninjas in Pyjamas also going to be somewhat aggressive on the roam downstairs, but not nearly as much as we were seeing from Team 1 in some of those rounds. We'll be contesting the main stairs ever so slightly. That'll be Psycho over there. Other than that, they're just kind of waiting on site.
These teams are both very frag heavy, and I feel like when the ball starts rolling, it's very hard for either team to stop the pummeling that they're doing against one another, and sometimes they overextend, and when you overextend, you find yourself in bad positions, as we've seen time and time again. We saw that from Mortals in the matchup against Team 1 on the 3rd play day, and I wouldn't be too surprised to see 1 or 2 more rounds of it here. Soft Destruction will open up dirt. You can let Rada continue to walk on down. ADS of Kamikaze, or the ADS in front of Kamikaze, will be his saving grace as he uses 1 of those toxic canisters. Keep in mind he's got 2 more of them to utilize if he wants. They'll throw an awful lot at him as he manages to deftly toss another canister through that wooden slat. He wasn't able to catch the drone in time, so there's still intel in there for Nip, or for Team 1, to be able to try and find Kamikaze playing inside of dirt.
Skadinia just used both of his concussive lifelines, and there's, I believe, still an ADS active there for Muzi in the utility closet. So he just has to wait, and he doesn't need to be worried about the one explosive lifeline that Skadinia still has. Team One have been probing a lot here. They've been looking for opportunities, but they actually haven't been able to make anything work. Ninja Pyjamas still holding onto dirt. They still have blue, and they only need to hold out for 40 more seconds. Curious to see what Team One are going to try to do in terms of hard destruction. They've got a lot of it, so we will see Lukid take down Kamikaze inside of dirt. That's a lot of control for Team One.
Psycho immediately refrags onto Rainbow6 the bottom of main stairs, and the push is coming in through dirt quite heavily. Both teams will trade yet again to put us at a 3v3, and Lukid has been down. Psycho will also join the downed club, but then they'll trade it off immediately. And around the back boxes inside of Arsenal, Muzi cannot be shaken away. 10 seconds left, he'll get flashed up, pushes right up. He'll catch one, looking for a second, and he'll get it. A big play from Muzi as he reads that correctly and takes the fight over to what little was left of Lukid and falls. Well, he falls. Ninjas in Pyjamas will win their very first defense on Church, and now we'll wait, whether it's a gym or a cash defense.
So the way things are looking right now, it certainly does seem to be that we are going to have a heavily defender-sided clubhouse. And this is typical for the map, of course, but it's emphasized very much by that Thatcher ban, as well as the Capital ban to an extent. The Echo and Mira bans are kind of, you expect it, you even plan around it, so that's not something too crazy. And the way that these rounds have been playing out, it just is, usually the defensive team that is the most patient wins. Because NiP, what did they do there? They waited and waited and waited, and then the fights started to come out. They were pushed into fights by their opponents, and NiP won. I mean, there's not a whole lot else to say. It was the same thing for Team One when they were on their defensive half. Whenever Team One would be patient and simply wait for the fights to come to them, they would win. I mean, NiP did lose a few fights when they were trying to get a little too aggressive. Kamikaze inside of Dirt Tunnel ended up losing the fight to Lukid, and that's early man advantage Team One. He didn't necessarily need to push that. He could have fallen back into sight and would have made that holding the bottleneck even easier for Muzi by supporting him, but he didn't. And it could have been a perfect round. Who knows? But the point I'm trying to get at here is, it seems to be right now, especially with the Thatcher ban, despite having all these hard destructors, they're very rarely able to be used correctly because of the time constriction. And if you just kind of poke your enemy, your attackers, if you kind of poke them as the defense, as they're trying to aggress on you, and then fall back, I mean, it's like you can't lose.
I wonder what Pino's intending with that camera that he threw out of the strip club wall. He opened it up with the deagle, and there's possibly a run out there. It'll get coverage, that camera where he threw it all the way down to the garage.
It sees a lot.
It does see a lot.
It sees like the entire south side of the building.
It'll see the CCTV window. It'll see garage. It'll see anybody playing over by Master or Gym balcony. So yeah, there's quite a bit that it will be able to get. But for the time being, Team One's actually setting a pretty decent pace here with the soft destruction they've been able to accomplish. Fearlessly, 50 seconds in, and they'll confront the Kaid. Ryze will lose all but literally 1 HP, and I'm sure Julio will be very furious about that, should he know how little HP was left of his foe.
It was very aggravating, that's for sure. But Rainbow6 is going to put another kill on the board there. Muzi goes down, so these extended roamers from Ninja Pyjamas, again, it's the offside play here that's costing NiP. It's the, the lack of the ability to just fall back, to just fall off the angle and say, no, we're not going to take this offside fight. We'll hold the bottlenecks. Kamikaze is going to take down Lukid. So there's a little bit of bounce back here from NiP, that's for sure. And with Ryze being on such low HP.
Yeah, I mean, this is eminently winnable, and NiP's ship is starting to take on water, and Pino losing a lot in the process. He'll pick up his second kill of the game onto Skadinia as you see more of a focus on into red. Pino's there for kill number 2. He'll head for the hills, looking for a third. He sees the arm of Rainbow6. He's got the C4 primed and ready, tossing it out. He gets shot out of midair, but Pino pops on up. It's a good time for him to come alive. He had 1 kill through the entire game, and he's looking for number 4. It's 1 HP. He just needs to 1-tap with the Deeg, or even 1 bullet from the MPX. And he'll see the Maverick just slightly aggressing up the stairs, and it's a 4K. Pino single-handedly reading into Team One, and NiP will be all tied up after a triumphant entry from Team One. They opened it up with 2 very early kills against Nip, but Pino just keeping his team in it through that entire round.
So the offside play almost ended up punishing Ninja Pyjamas quite substantially there, where Team 1 were putting the control on. They were cross-firing those roamers and getting them picked off, but they failed to deal with Pino, who was also playing inside of Cache. They figured, I assume, that there was only one roamer in that location, and they were just moving on to the next step. Because of that, Pino was allowed freedom of movement, and he really did punish Team 1 on that clear. A beautiful play from him individually, the Hail Mary to save the round, and yeah, that is going to definitely, I'd say, burrow into the psyche of Team 1 and cost them, I think, a lot in terms of, focus moving forward in this match, especially considering that they are on attack now, and it is definitely much more difficult to win those attacking rounds. When you lose to individual efforts like that, it can really start to snowball, and if you're Team 1, you've got to be worried about that.
Yeah, I'd see that as a massive point of frustration. And I think burrowed into the mind of Team 1, I absolutely agree with that. And while they've blown up their composition just a little bit, and when I say blow it up, well, they've added a gridlock, which is an interesting choice here for Ninjas in Pyjamas.
I mean, gridlock is a good operator for certain things, but yeah, there's some hot spots you can cut off rotations with using the gridlock on this map. It's not as obvious as some other ones. Like you go on Cafe and you're like, yeah, I know where I'm going to use my gridlock. I know what I'm doing there. Even on like Border, for example. But we'll see how they choose to utilize the gridlock. It's a very common Valkyrie camp coming up by Psycho.
Those Valkyrie cameras were really effective for Pino last time, as there's been some role swaps for Nip. They've kept Julio on the support-oriented operators, with Kamikaze flexing on over there. Now, keep in mind that Kamikaze has been utilized in less of an aggressive manner, at least on defense. It's kind of filling the void that Wog left when the team was pushed off. And when you pick up somebody like Musi, yeah, you can put him on aggressive roles too. He's going to be on a support op this time, though, as he can frag well no matter where you put him. Psycho has not been shaken out of Strip Club, at least for the time being, but he'll be spotted on the drone. And here's the problem with being in Strip, is you only have 1 or 2 areas out. It's very challenging for you to be able to get out alive.
Yeah.
And if you don't get Psycho to those main stairs quickly, then he could be picked off. But for the time being, Team 1's efforts don't seem to be over on that side of the map. Frankly, they're all over towards the actual cache wall.
By the way, the reason you see Team 1 and Ninjas in Pyjamas alike Maverick tricking, just a little tip, if you're going to try and Maverick trick, always start with the top, because it's easier to repair that way. Because if you accidentally overlook one little line of hard wall on the bottom or the top, as long as you started with the top, you can repair it. If you start with the bottom, it's hard for you to get back there.
Look for a jump out here as nobody's holding that cross, and there was an opportunity to get a kill as somebody was on a drone, but Psycho, I think, got called off.
Is he really going back?
He is very committed to this, and keep in mind that Team 1 has been kept busy over on the side of the map where the site is. It's a cache take. Suzy will find Rayduct, and Psycho doesn't know if he can go for a run out. He's got the gaping maw of the garage, and he sees one, but this is a long angle to make. He'll do a little bit of damage, and Luke Kid will lose about 50 HP in the process. But Rayduct and Rise have both been taken out of action. So you can take that gamble because it's going to be at worst a 4v3 for Nip on site.
And another thing is he's allowing Muzi to continue to roam on the bottom of Garage. That's why Psycho is running out from Strip Club. He just wants to deny the panel access to Team 1. It's sensible. And again, as you said, with the man advantage, it's not that huge of a risk, but an aggressive play from Falls, and he'll take control of server. Julio's going to fight back, though. It's definitely not all over for Nip. And while they have gotten control of server, it's not a whole lot. Lukid will take down Muzi in Garage. So here we go, Team 1. Garage control and server control, and they're forcing the roamers to have to retake their own site now. This is actually looking really good, but Julio, saving grace from downstairs in Garage, and now it's all on Falls. He's about to be flanked, so he has to establish control in Cache. He's got that control. Can he get a plant off? Potentially some C4s from below. So little time left. The garage pressure is real from Julio. He's prone, so not spotted. Vault here, that's too aggressive, and Julio will take him down. A nice try there from Team 1, but Ninjas in Pyjamas, a great retake.
Yeah, you lost the 2 bodies early, and Team 1 didn't have anything left to really push on into the site. And even though, it was Kamikaze, or Psycho rather, who was playing so far off site over on Strip, you didn't really need him. Though it did look like Team 1 was able to swing it back into a 3v3 on site with Psycho being isolated. It was the Valkyrie who was recalled really quickly over to construction from those main stairs. And then it really just came down to nobody really checking for flank watch. And that's what happens. That's what happens when you find yourself at a distinct advantage in terms of numbers. And it's what happens when you don't necessarily have an operator dedicated for it. Keep in mind the Gridlock had died early on. And she's as great of an anti-flank operator as you could imagine outside of a Nomad. But if you can't get those stingers off, then there's not much usage. There's also a set of smokes that could have been really valuable, but the ADSs didn't really seem to be dealt with until Falls walked in and shot them himself. So 3 rounds in a row, well, rather 4 technically if you go back to when Ninjas and Pyjamas were on attack, and they have managed to do something that Team 1 also did, which is complete a full cycle on the Church, Gym, and Cache. I don't suspect we're going to see a bar or stock defense out of NIP. It will probably be the same 3 sites, providing that NIP is able to win them, but it's 1 round away from a guaranteed point from NIP, which will keep them ahead of Team 1 in the standings at minimum, and we'll await what happens in that phase matchup to see if NIP will lose their lead.
So the basement set up for NIP. Last time NIP were here, they did a good job of just holding on and playing the hard anchor. Their most aggressive play was Kamikaze inside of Dirt Tunnel, and it did actually end up giving a pick away to Team 1, but it didn't cost NIP the round because Team 1 stacked up pretty heavily in that Dirt Tunnel, and ultimately that is just a bottleneck if that's your actual whole push. Team 1 didn't have a whole lot else going for them on the assault. So, see if they're going to change how they choose to attack this, or if it's going to be much the same. Seems like they want to incorporate Dirt again. They haven't committed to anything just yet. It's been a clear of the roamers on the top floor, as is standard here for Clubhouse Basement defense. Psycho once again fighting on the stairs, but he will very likely, as he did last time, fall back as soon as he gets droned out, which is smart.
Smart.
Yes. Cool, 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 cool.
Toy. Smart. There are so many people who will just not understand that reference.
Yeah,
That's okay.
it's not too obscure,
We're not
though.
the gatekeepers of the references. Some people will get it, and hopefully they appreciate it. Anywho, it's another Church defense down below. As we said, the cycle will continue. Gym unlocks next round and then Cache the round after if it's required. We might only need 11 rounds here, but nonetheless, it's still been a pretty even match between these teams, and Team 1 has been performing, I think, as well as you could expect. They just narrowly lost Team Liquid, they just narrowly beat Immortals, and now at least they're hanging tough against another top team in Latin America. So even if they don't walk away with any points on this, it'll still be pretty close to a victory for them, and it will be yet another piece of proof, I would say, of how strong Team 1 has been in their debut in Pro League.
Yeah, I would say that Team 1 are definitely proving themselves over the last few play days. I mean, before this, they managed to beat Immortals. You know, they go toe-to-toe with Liquid, much like they're doing with NIP right now, and then they 7-0 ins. It's been a good first season for them. And they're going to get a kill, the first one in this round. Nice nade there from Mayduct.
I always chuckle when it's Jaeger who dies to a frag grenade.
A little bit of irony.
Yeah, it's very coincidental, right?
It's a tad, though.
Now, last time Lucid was able to walk down and march down much of Dirt. Oh, bad timing from Rayduct as he looks to the other side, not expecting Pino to be in the area he is, and Julio, doing his best Skadinia impression, will swing around and be able to take one body down, but there's one more from Team 1 back to an equalization. Dirt Tunnel is completely free.
Yeah, here's the thing. Team 1 are stacking 2 of their 3 remaining players onto Dirt. That is a really costly investment, and it looks like they are actually going to rotate, but it's very last second.
And Pino is still alive, and he was quarterbacking the defense over by the boxes inside of Arsenal, and he's going to have as good an advantage, or as good a vantage point as you can expect. But there's Julio. He's got a rotate hole inside of blue. His reign of terror will continue. He'll take out Rise, expecting the Kaid to do some damage, as Psycho has lost quite a bit of HP. Almost no way for the Thermite to be able to make it out of there as Julio picks up a 3rd kill, and then around the corner, a 4K from Julio, who has come alive in this second half. Both he as well as Pino have been instrumental, as it was a double-up effort there with the Maestro as well as the Bandit, just to gun down the remaining members of Team 1. And in order to force a draw, Team 1 will need to be perfect over the next 2 rounds and do something they have yet to do, which is pick up a single attacking victory. I had said that it was unlikely that Team 1 was going to only get 1 round, and I was technically correct. Well, they got 0, not 1.
Well, we aren't there yet. They still have 2 rounds left to potentially
I meant so far.
Okay. They still have potentially 2 rounds to bring it back from the brink of destruction, but they are definitely there. So it's looking difficult. That Thatcher ban obviously working against them in so many ways, as it worked against Nip when Nip had to attack. The way that Team One attacked that last round was kind of interesting in that they were not very thorough. They had very little site information when they actually tried to get into the site itself. So they were trying to force their way in after just, yeah, okay, we've droned out blue, we've established we've controlled blue, good job. And then they're pushing out of blue into Arsenal, and they're getting mowed down in the process. Why? Because they didn't check anything in Arsenal. So I'm sure they tried, probably just their drones got shot. But another thing is, well, they weren't successful, but another thing is, again, the sheer quantity of players Team One are putting inside of Dirt on their basement attack is just odd. 2, maybe. You know, 1 probably would be the nice sweet spot there, 1 player in Dirt. You know, you get control of Dirt, you can put 2 there initially, you get control of Dirt, then you leave 1 guy there and the other one rotates, because you can't even peek 2 angles coming out of Dirt. Like, you can't use 2 weapons inside of Dirt, so it's just kind of redundant at that point, unless you're trying to refrag. It just seems like a bad call for Team One, considering that they're struggling to take control of blue, which is the other part to their, crossfire. They need to definitely shift their focus, but that's actually not going to be something they need to consider in this match, because they won't be able to attack onto the basement anymore through this match. Well, we won't be going back to the basement. It was just 1. And there's no OT, so the most that Team One can hope for is a draw. They'll have to win on probably Jim and Cash.
A tough prospect, just given the way that this has played out for the time being. Yeah. Especially considering the fact that Team One weren't even able to breach past Cash last time. That's where Pino picked up his 4K. And what might have confused some people and think, oh, well, of course, it's a Cash CCTV defense, isn't it? No, it's a Jim defense. And Pino doesn't know where he's getting shot from. He basically flails. And to see if there's going to be somebody to help pick him up. Skadina will bait him, at least for the time being, and they'll get out of there with Rayduct also looking for the Kaid as Julio comes to his rescue. But he's not going to be able to do much, because I think they correctly realized that you might as well take care of Pino for the time being. You lose the Valkyrie, all right, but not maybe as damning as the frag grenades and the soft destruction coming out of Rayduct.
This is huge.
That's a second kill for Team One, as Falls has both kills for his team. And keep in mind, it was the Cash push that really didn't work out too well for Team One. They're going to have to encounter that right now.
We haven't actually seen a successful attack onto anything other than the basement so far, so things are still really well in hand for Ninjas and Pyjamas, despite this clear disadvantage, especially considering Moosey's going to get a free kill onto Rise as he drops out of Workshop. Obviously an unexpected location there. Team One didn't drone it out, though, and they could have potentially kept one of their players alive if they hadn't overextended themselves downstairs just now. Ninjas and Pyjamas in a decent array here. Julio being lit up is their strong disadvantage, though. 2 gas canisters left here for Kamikaze, and the Electroclaw is preventing the exothermic, but it will be dispatched by the nade by Lukid, and it'll be Falls to go for that exothermic, but the impacts from Kamikaze are going to hold on to Office. There's a drop of them. There could be potentially denial here, but Team One doesn't have time to rotate anymore.
It's the second exothermic charge that's going down with Julio down below. With how Julio has been playing over the second half, I don't think that you can rest easy if you're Team One, as long as he's still on the board. Kamikaze takes out Falls, the hot hand for Team One. Julio collects kill number 2, and it's all up to Lukid. He was the superstar last time, but he's going to be the victim of time and circumstance. Pick up 2 kills. You got to find Julio, but where is he? Well, he's down on that first floor, and he just simply needs to hide. He's not involved in any altercation, and he's downstairs playing billiards. It comes close for Team One, but ultimately the second half for Nip with 5 rounds in a row on defense and 6 rounds in a row, 7 rounds out of the final 8. Exact same thing that happened to Immortals against Team One on the previous play day. And what a story it was for Ninjas in Pyjamas as they pick up 3 points and will once again extend the lead that they had on the schedule or on the standings and await the rest of the teams, as there's still 3 games left in the schedule.
Yeah, of course, up next we'll have Immortals versus Liquid, but this match in particular was quite interesting. Mostly just came down to the Defenders' side being heavily favored because of the Thatcher ban, and also just because Clubhouse. But yeah, the way that ended up playing out was not terribly shocking. I think that it could have been better for Team One if they had just Well, not made too many mistakes on their defensive half. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. They lost 2 rounds, 2 Ninjas in Pyjamas trying to defend the basement, and that's what cost them the match.
What sticks in my mind was that one church defense where there was just nobody on site. They'd completely evacuated it, and then a couple times on attack, they can't seem to get around the fact that NIP roam as aggressively as they do, and this is just a hallmark of a good NIP defense. We've seen it on Bank. We used to see it when they used to run Alibi. Keep in mind, teams used to ban Alibi against Ninjas in Pyjamas because it was an operator that enabled the Ninjas to be as elusive as their name would suggest. And ultimately, both Pino and Julio, in at least 3 of those 5 rounds that we saw on defense, they were just uncatchable.
Yeah.
And because of that, maybe it was poor droning, maybe it was just that the information was favored by the defenders. Who knows what the actual story was behind it? There's obviously some things that Team One need to work on because this has been, their most lopsided defeat. It's a 7-4. That's still pretty good if that's your worst defeat so far this season.
Yeah, yeah. They did manage to go a little bit more against Liquid with that 7-5, so that was pretty good. But overall, Team One still doing a decent job, and Ninjas in Pyjamas, I think, just using it. They're more veteran. They've been around for a lot longer. They've got the experience, and they also have, again, we talked about it, the star power on Ninjas in Pyjamas. Yeah. Those individual plays, especially that one we saw from Pino with the 4K roaming on Cash. Sometimes when that just pops out, it will give your team a distinct edge in the whole match.
It took a little bit for NIP to gel the way they needed to, but I think Musi is starting to find his way into the lineup quite confidently, and Pino is coming into his own as well. Keep in mind that Latin America is a very aggressive and fast region, and if you can't play at that Pro League level, well, then there might be some problems. But 3 big points for Ninjas in Pyjamas, and that'll close out match number 1. But our match of the day is up next. Immortals, who find themselves starting the day in 7th place, will go up against Team Liquid, who also find themselves in that logjam down between 4th and 6th place. It's titled the match of the day for a reason. We'll throw to a break, and then we'll come back with match number 2.